for cream cheese products that have been recalled over possible salmonella contamination.
13 points of milk fat, and a preservative federal law doesn't allow in cream cheese. That's the gap between these two packs, and they're the same brand on the same shelf. The only difference on the front is one extra word. The front of the pack sells a story. The receipt tells the truth. Everything here comes off paper anybody can pull. The Federal Cheese Standards, an FDA guidance document from 2017, 2 USDA handbooks that contradict each other, and the panels photographed off the packages. There is a real federal definition. To be sold as cream cheese, a food needs at least 33% milk fat, no more than 55% moisture, and every ingredient off a closed list. No preservatives, no colors, no sweeteners, no starches, no added vitamins. Then, somebody adds one word to the front, and every one of those rules stops applying. Subscribe now because the front is built so you never check. 4 tests on everything tonight. The definition, the statement of identity, anything in it the standard doesn't permit, and whether the front survives the back. And here are the 4 that pass before we start. The Philadelphia block, the Tillamook block, Organic Valley, and Nancy's. Screenshot it. I'll come back to each one at the end with what to look for on the pack, and the honest problem with 2 of them. Entry number 7. Number 7 is the cheapest correct answer in the store, and it's sitting closer to the line than you'd think. Great Value, Kroger, Aldi's Happy Farms, Trader Joe's, and Kirkland all sell a block that says cream cheese on the front. No spread, no qualifier. So all 5 are claiming the full federal standard. Here's the receipt. Every one of them declares 9 grams of fat per 28-gram serving. Philadelphia, Tillamook, and Organic Valley declare 10. 9 over 28 is 32.1% against a floor of 33. And rounding puts the true figure somewhere between 31 and 33. So I'm not going to tell you any of them breaks the standard. I can't prove that from a rounded number. Your move takes 3 seconds. Read the fat grams per ounce, 9 or 10. Verdict, it fails on marketing accuracy. And not because any one of them is over the line, because every one of them is on it, and not one of the brands charging you more is. Number 6 is the tub people buy for their kids. Philadelphia Strawberry Cream Cheese Spread. 14 ingredients against the block's 4 at 14.1% fat, missing the cream cheese floor by more than half. And sugar sits second on the panel, which means by weight there's more sugar in that tub than strawberry. Here's the receipt, and it isn't the sugar by itself. It's where the sugar sits in the rule book. The cream cheese standard doesn't permit sweeteners. Not capped, not restricted, not permitted. So the moment you sweeten it, it can't legally be cream cheese. It becomes a cream cheese spread instead, and that one word is the mechanism this whole video runs on. Because I went looking for the standard that governs cream cheese spread, expecting a looser one. There isn't a looser one. There is no federal standard for cream cheese spread at all. Part 1. 33 has a section for cream cheese, 1 for Neuchâtel, 1 for cheese spread with fruits and vegetables. No section for this. That word doesn't move the product into a weaker rulebook. It moves it out of the rulebook, and the color, the preservative, the starch, and the added vitamin all walk in behind it. Verdict, it fails on formulation and on identity. Now, let's put 2 of these in a pan. 2 pans, same heat, same weight, no stirring. On the left, the Philadelphia spread. On the right, the Tillamook block. The block is 35% milk fat. The spread is 22. Take 13 points of fat out, and something has to fill the volume. And in a soft dairy spread, that something is water, held in place by gum. So the one carrying more fat should go glossy and pool. The one carrying more water should separate, then set up again as it cools. If you want more of this, A-like helps it reach people still buying on autopilot. Number 5 is the one nobody has told you about. and it's a piece of federal regulation. Philadelphia whipped cream cheese spread runs 12 ingredients at 20.5% fat, with modified food starch, whey protein concentrate, 3 gums, a preservative, and added vitamin A. It misses the floor by 13 points. That's not why it's here. Here's the rule. If a food is modified by incorporating air, and the density drops by 25% or more, the manufacturer may recalculate the reference amount downward in proportion. A smaller reference amount means a smaller declared serving, which means fewer calories, less fat, and less saturated fat printed on the panel without changing the recipe. All the rule asks in return is that you put the word whipped on the package. Now look at the shelf. 2 tubs of Philadelphia, both declaring a serving of 2 tablespoons. The whipped one weighs 22 grams. The fat-free one weighs 33. Same 2 words, 50% more food. I can't prove any manufacturer invoked that rule because the density records aren't public. What I can tell you is the mechanism is federal law, and the serving weights on the shelf move exactly the way it predicts. Verdict, it fails on formulation and on marketing accuracy. Hold on to one number, 16.1. It shows up twice in the next 90 seconds. Number 4 is 2 tubs sitting inches apart in your dairy case. Philadelphia reduced fat, sold as 1/3 less fat. And Philadelphia chive and onion, sold as a treat, with nothing on the front about fat at all. Here's the receipt. Reduced fat, 5 grams of fat in a 31-gram serving, 16.1%. Chive and onion, 5 grams of fat in a 31-gram serving, 16.1%. They're nutritionally identical, and nothing on either front says so. And the 1/3 less fat claim is measured against the block, not the plain tub beside it. Against that tub, it's 29% less, not 1/3. Now the artifact, because that tub carries the most honest sentence in this aisle, and it's federally required. When a product keeps the protected words cream cheese, but breaks the standard to make a nutrition claim, the law makes it confess. Every ingredient not allowed in the real thing gets an asterisk, and the panel has to end with the words, ingredient not in regular cream cheese. Nobody reads it. Verdict, it fails on marketing accuracy. Number 3 is the one that's in your fridge right now. 22.6% milk fat against the block's 35.7. Same brand, same 8 ounces, same shelf. 13 points of milk fat gone. And it's only 5 ingredients, so this isn't a chemical soup story, it's a name story. The 5th ingredient is natamycin, a mold inhibitor, and the cream cheese standard permits no preservative at all. It's in there lawfully because the word spread took the product out of the standard. Here's the receipt, and it's one word. On Kraft Heinz's own website, the block page says the product stays charmingly real with no preservatives. The tub pages say free from artificial preservatives, flavors, and dyes. One says no preservatives, the other says no artificial preservatives. And that single adjective tracks exactly which products contain a mold inhibitor. Are they compliant? Completely. Natamycin is fermentation-derived, so the word artificial does the work. That's not sloppy copywriting, though. It reads like somebody chose it. One more thing about that front of pack. Made with fresh milk and real cream is not a claim the FDA regulates. No minimum percentage, no substantiation requirement, nothing. Verdict, it fails on identity and on marketing accuracy. And I want to hear from you on this one. Tell me in the comments whether you knew the block and the tub were different products, or whether you assumed the tub was the block in a softer package. I read them. Number 2 is the illusion that you have a choice. On the 3rd of May, 2024, one company in Green Bay, Wisconsin, filed a voluntary recall, 836,000 units. And here are the brands the FDA's enforcement record lists as affected. Aldi's Happy Farms, Kroger, Hy-Vee, Schnucks, Fairway, Dutch Farms, Our Family, Essential Everyday, Piggly Wiggly, and Dunkin'. 9 names, 9 stores, 9 price points, 1 factory. That's a document, not a claim. Now the structure underneath it. The USDA counts how many American plants make cream cheese and Neufchâtel. In 2021, the year the shelves emptied, the answer was roughly 30 buildings for the entire country. Production is up about 22% since 2019. The plant count hasn't moved, and it's about to move the wrong way. Franklin Foods called itself the third largest cream cheese producer in the country. Its Arizona plant filed a permanent closure notice in December of 2025. Its Vermont plant, on a site running since 1899, closed at the end of July with 99 jobs in it. The German owner is out of American cream cheese entirely. And for Kirkland, Good, and Gather and Publix, I could not establish who makes them at all. Not a factory, not a co-packer, nothing. Verdict, it fails on sourcing, which is where you stop blaming companies and start reading the rule book. In 2017, 4 legislators and the head of a dairy trade group wrote to Washington about a milk surplus. Within weeks, the FDA published a guidance on ultra-filtered milk. In it, the FDA states plainly that filtered milk isn't included in the cheese definitions, so the standards don't provide for its use. Then, in the same document, it announces it won't enforce that. Then it goes further and won't enforce the labeling either, so ultra-filtered milk can go in and stay off the ingredient statement entirely. The reason it gives, in writing, is the cost of label changes. Every page is headed, contains non-binding recommendations, and it says it isn't binding on the FDA or on the public. It was a stopgap for a rulemaking proposed in October of 2005. That rulemaking has been reopened 4 times, and there's still no final rule. The cream cheese standard itself hasn't been substantively amended since 1993. Then there's the part where the government argues with itself. The USDA's marketing service writes the spec the government uses to buy cream cheese. Under it, a low-fat cream cheese can be as little as 10% milk fat and up to 70% water, and it says out loud that beads of moisture on the surface are permissible. Same department, different handbook. The USDA's child nutrition program says cream cheese is not creditable. It contributes nothing to a child's meal. Cheese spreads and cheese foods under weaker standards both credit. Cream cheese doesn't. Number 1 is the product sold to you as the healthy one. Great value fat-free cream cheese. 14 ingredients, 0 grams of fat, and 6 asterisks on the panel, each one a federally required confession that the ingredient beside it isn't in regular cream cheese. Here's the mechanism, and it's the sharpest thing in this video. Titanium dioxide is a whitener. Federal color rules say it may not be used to color foods that have standards of identity unless the standard authorizes added color. The cream cheese standard authorizes no color. So, titanium dioxide is illegal in real cream cheese. Not discouraged, illegal. But a fat-free product can't hit 33% milk fat, so it isn't standardized, the standard doesn't apply, and the whitener becomes lawful. The rule protecting you is attached to the fat. Take the fat out, and the protection goes with it. Europe banned it in food in 2022. Here it's still permitted. There's a second ingredient doing quiet work: sodium tripolyphosphate, an inorganic phosphate additive. Fat-free cream cheese carries about 5 times the phosphorus of regular. Some of that's legitimate because it's protein concentrated, but per gram of protein it's still roughly double, and the excess is the additive. Now try to find that number on the package. You can't. Phosphorus isn't a mandatory nutrition facts nutrient, so the dose is invisible by law. An inorganic phosphate is absorbed at over 90%, against 40 to 60 for the natural kind. Verdict, it fails on all 4. Subscribe. This is what we do every week. That's the end of the list. Now the part that actually kept me up, because none of it is on a label. Natural flavor is 1 line on a panel, and that line can lawfully cover dozens of separate compounds, plus the solvents carrying them. No source, no quantity. And the rule lets the flavor house tell the manufacturer only that everything inside is FDA approved, which means the company making your cream cheese may not know what's in its own product. Enzymes get declared as enzymes. No species, no organism. Processing aids don't have to appear at all. Then the arithmetic. Federal rules say that if a serving holds less than half a gram of trans fat, the panel declares 0, so an 8-ounce tub can lawfully carry up to 3.5 grams. The label says isn't in there. I'm not telling you any product on this shelf does that. I'm telling you that if one did, the panel would look identical to one that doesn't. And then there's the measuring. The FDA runs a program that tests American food for PFAS. It has tested cheddar and Swiss and Monterey Jack and mozzarella and Parmesan and half and ice cream. It has never tested cream cheese. The fattiest thing in the dairy case is the one thing not in the sampling frame, and there's no published measurement of it from anybody. There's no federal limit for PFAS in milk either, while the EPA enforces 4 parts per trillion in your drinking water. And on aflatoxin, the FDA's own compliance program tells its investigators in writing not to sample dairy products such as cheese. I want to be careful here, because I'm not telling you there's something in your cream cheese. Nobody has found anything. Nobody has looked. But a state toxicologist in Michigan named Kay Fritz explained on the record why her department wasn't testing milk from farms where sludge had been spread. And these are her words exactly. If you test the milk and you find PFAS, then you have to tell the farmer. Then the farmer has to tell the co-op that takes the milk. Then they say, oh no, we don't want any PFAS milk. That isn't a contamination story. It's a governance one, and you can't answer it with a clean test result. One more absence, and it's the one that matters for your health. Every defense of cheese you've ever heard comes from studies of cheddar and Gouda and Parmesan, aged, fermented, full of calcium. Cream cheese is none of those. It got none of the fermentation and all of the fat, and it's almost entirely missing from that research. Nobody has shown it's bad for you. Nobody has shown it's fine either. That is not the same as safe. That's nobody looking. And now the part where I tell you the videos you've already watched about this got it wrong. The most watched ones on this subject have been seen about 900,000 times between them, and both crown the same brand as the clean one, the one with no gums. I bought it. Organic Valley's label reads, organic pasteurized milk, and organic cream, cheese culture, salt, organic locust bean gum. 5th ingredient. And one of them spends a full minute condemning a different brand for that exact gum, then crowns this one for not having it. And here's the part that matters more than the mistake. The gum was never the problem. The standard permits stabilizers up to 0.5%, about 1 gram in an entire 8-ounce block. If a gum made it fake, the 4-ingredient block is fake too, and so is the brand both of them crowned. The question was never whether there's a gum. It's what the gum is standing in for. It goes further. 2 of the products recommended as the real cream cheese don't exist, never made. Both companies make excellent dairy, and neither makes a cream cheese. They also contradict each other on the most purchased product in the category, one calling the Philadelphia block relatively clean, and the other putting it first on the skip list. And both cite an FDA regulatory category for cream cheese spread as a source. There is no such category. And one more thing you've been told that doesn't hold up. Cream cheese isn't unsafe in pregnancy. The CDC's own Safer Food Choices page lists it by name in the Safer column, alongside cottage cheese and string cheese. When it's made with pasteurized milk, the risk category is raw milk, not soft cheese generally. Now let me show you the 4 that hold up. None of them is here just for failing to be bad. Number 4 is the purist's answer, and the hardest one to find. Nancy's makes an organic cultured cream cheese with 5 ingredients, no gum of any kind, no preservative, and live culture's still in it when you buy it. Nancy is a real person. She was the creamery's bookkeeper, and when founder Chuck Kesey, a trained dairy scientist, started culturing her family's yogurt recipe, customers kept asking for that Nancy's yogurt until the family made it the name on the tub. They've kept live cultures in everything since, and that trade costs money because live culture means a shorter shelf life and more waste in the chain. Your label tells the words live cultures on the front and a use-by date sooner than everything around it. Short dates are a feature. Number 3 is the one I have to be honest about. Organic Valley contains organic locust bean gum. It's printed right there, 5th ingredient, and the brand never hid it. Here's why it's still on this list. That gum is legal, it's on the permitted stabilizer list, and it's doing texture work inside a product that hits 33.3% milk fat with 4 ingredients, all organic, no preservative. Your label tells the best habit you can build. When a label names something you weren't expecting, that's a label doing its job. Number 2 has the cleanest label in America, and I mean that literally. Cultured pasteurized milk and cream, pasteurized skim milk, sea salt, 3 ingredients, 0 gums. And Tillamook lands at 35.7% milk fat, the same as the market leader, with nothing helping it hold together. Matching that on fat, with no stabilizer at all, is harder to make and harder to ship. And a farmer-owned cooperative chose to do it anyway. It's at Walmart. Your label tells a count. If the list fits on one line, you're holding real food. A like here is free, and it helps. Number 1 is the brand I've spent 20 minutes criticizing, and that isn't a twist. That's the point. Philadelphia's tubs are the most misunderstood products in this aisle. Philadelphia's block is the most honest one. 35.7% milk fat against a 33% floor, clearing even at the worst case rounding. About 51% moisture against a 55% sealing. 4 ingredients. No preservative, no starch, no added vitamin. Its no preservatives claim is verifiably true. 2 real things behind it. It wins essentially every credible blind taste test, including America's Test Kitchen's 2017 panel of 21 tasters. And when the flavored whipped tubs quietly shrank from 16 ounces to 15.5, and 8 to 7.5. Back in 2016, the block stayed 8 ounces. The honest note, and Tillamook earns it, the block contains carob bean gum and Tillamook doesn't. If a 0 gum label matters most, buy the Tillamook. Your label tell is the 2 words, cream cheese, and nothing after them. One last thing, because a brand doing well is small and a system moving isn't. That Vermont plant from number 2. The plant manager, a man who'd worked in that building for nearly 4 decades, bought it. He's due to restart it this September as an independent creamery, starting with baker's cheese rather than cream cheese, and keeping about 20 of those jobs. Consolidation isn't a law of physics. It's what happens when nobody buys the building. So here's the whole video, in one move you can do in 3 seconds. Ignore the brand, ignore the front, find the smallest type on the package, directly under the logo. If it says cream cheese and nothing else, a federal standard is protecting you. If there's any other word attached, spread, whipped, style, product, alternative, then there's no standard behind it at all. And every rule about color, sweeteners, preservatives, and starch stops applying at that moment. And here's the real closer, because it isn't the one you're expecting. The 4-ingredient block has no phosphate additives, no preservatives, no added color, no added sugar, no added vitamins. The fat-free tub, the one sold to you as the healthy version, has all of them. But almost every one of those additives is a rounding error at the dose you'd actually eat. The 6 grams of saturated fat in the block are not. 27% of a day's federal budget in 1 ounce. And a real schmear isn't 1 ounce. It's 2 or 3. The healthiest move isn't switching products. It's using less of whichever one you buy. Send this to whoever does the shopping in your house. And subscribe. There's a lot more of this coming.